Today's topic is subnetting. Before going to subnetting, let's have some basic idea. Without this basic idea, you will not be able to do subnetting. First is the IP address. There are 5 classes of IP address, that is class A, class B, class C, class D and class E. Class A start from 1 to 126, B start from 128 to 191, C from 192 to 223, D from 224 to 239, E from 242 to 255. These are all IP version for IP range. IP address consists of 4 numbers separated by 3 dots. All these 4 numbers can change from 0 to 255. That is, the first IP address will be start from 0, next will be 1, next 2, it can change up to 255. If it is finished, then simply change 0 to 1, 1.0, 1.1, 1.2 and 1.255. In the same way, if 1 is finished, change the third number to 2, third number can change up to 255. In the same way, first number and second number can change from 0 to 255 is. Now the subnet marks. Let's take an IP address of class C and its default subnet marks will be 255.255.255.0. These subnet marks segregate the IP address into network ID and host ID. Here 192.168.0 is the network ID and 1 is the host ID. You will get confused. I will clarify it with an example. Suppose this IP address, that is 192.168.0.1, likes to communicate a PC having IP address 192.168.0.2 and subnet marks 255.255.255.0. Then how this process will be performed? First, the IP address or the device having this IP address will communicate the switch or router. After that, the switch or router will first check the subnet marks of the device to be connected. Here, the subnet marks is 255.255.255. This gave an idea to the switch or router that 192.168.0 is the network address. Then the switch or router will save this number and try to find out the network with this ID. So suppose there are two network 192.168.0.0 and 192.168.1.0. Since this number is exactly matched with this network address, the switch router will have an idea that the PC will be in this network. After this, for confirmation, the switch router will check the fourth subnet marks 0. Here the fourth subnet marks indicate the size of the network. Since it is 0, the first starting address will be 0. So the network address is the first IP address of the network. So that is 192.168.0 is the 0.0 is the network address. After this confirmation, the switch router will request the broadcast address to broadcast in this network to find out which is the ID is 2. So the PC having this ID, that is 192.168.0.2, will say he is the one which you want to communicate. So a route will be connected between the source and the destination. After this, file and printer sharing will be performed. The main purpose of subnet marks or subnetting is to make searching of network faster and communication between devices faster and prevent congestion in the network. In this example, we didn't search in this network, so congestion in this network is prevented. We search only in this network, so searching of network is faster. Now, this 255, 1 and 2, these are all decimal numbers. That is, it consists of 0 to 9 digits. This number are all human readable numbers. Now let's learn how this process is performed by device or PC. First, all the decimal will be converted into binary. When we convert 255 into binary, it will be 1 8 times, 0 will be 0 8 times. The switch or router will have an idea after looking the subnet marks that this is the network ID. So they will search for the exact match with this network ID. The network ID here is in this network. After this, the broadcast ID will broadcast in this network, which is the ID having this ID. After this, the device will be said he is the one. After this, root will be established and file and pincher sharing will be performed. This is the way the device is performed this process. Default subnet mask. Default subnet mask of class A will be 255.0.0.0. A here means A means one time, 255.1 one time .0.0.0. B means 255 two times, 255.255.0.0. C means 255 three times, 255.255.255.0. This will be the default subnet mask before having any subnetting. That is, if it is class A, the subnet mask will be 255.0.0.0, and if it is class B, the default subnet mask will be 255.255.0.0, and if it is class C, it will be default subnet mask will be 255.255.255.0. This will be the default subnet mask before doing any subnetting. This subnet mask value can be from any of this number, that is 0, 128, 192, 224, 240, 248, 252, 254 or 255. So this number can be any of this number, but we cannot change this 255, but we can change this 0 numbers by any of this number. That is, we can change only this. In class A, we can change only in the second, third and fourth number having with 0, but we cannot change this 255. In the same way, in class B, we cannot change this 255, but we can change in the third and fourth number by any of this number. In the same way, in the class C, we cannot change this 255. There is 3 numbers, but we can change this last number, that is 4th number, can by any of these numbers. If the subnet mask value is 0, that is, if the subnet mask is 255.255.255.0 and the value is 0, then what does this value 0 means? That is, when we convert this subnet mask into binary, 255 will be 1 8 time, 255 will be 1 8 time, 255 will be 1 8 time, 0 will be 0 8 times. The number of bits here is 8, 8, 8 and 8, altogether 32 bits. From this 32 bit, we reserve 8 bits for storing the ID of the device. The device here may be PC, router or any electronics gadgets. That is, if the ID of the device is 1, then it will be stored in the binary format like this. If it is 255, it will be stored in this binary format. So all the ID of the device is stored in this binary format. When we convert this binary to decimal, that is, it will be 0. The 0 here is this one. Now let's learn the practical meaning of 0 in the subnet mask. That is, if the subnet mask is 25.25.25.0 and 0 in the last number, what does it mean? It means that in the IP address, the last value starting from 0, 1, 2, 3 to 54 up to 255 can communicate each other. That is, 0 last number ending last number starting from 0 to 255 can communicate each other. That is, they can share file and printer among them, except the fast address, that is network address, and the broadcast address. That is from 1 to 254 can communicate each other. They can share file and printer among them. Altogether, the number of IP that can communicate here is 256 in the class C. And in the class B, if it is 0 in the third, it means 0 up to 255 can communicate each other. If it is in the fourth, if 0 is in the fourth number, then it means that it can communicate 0 up to 255 in the fourth number. Altogether, the number of IP address that can communicate here is 65,536. And if it is class A, and its value here 0 is in the second number, then it means that it can communicate in the second number, that is from 0 to 255. If it is in the third, that is it can communicate from 0 to 255 in the third number. If it is in the 0 in the fourth number, then it means that it can communicate 0 up to 255 in the fourth number. Altogether, 16 million IP address can communicate in class A. Now the CIDR or classless interdomain routing. What does it mean? Instead of writing this subnet mask 255.255.25.0, we can write like this /24. This is the CIDR notation of this subnet mask. Then what does this /24 or CIDR means? Means the number of 1 in the network ID. Here the number of 1 here is 888, altogether 24. This is the CIDR notation. CIDR notation means the number of 1 in the network ID. Now the number of hosts. The number of 0 in the host ID is known as the number of hosts. Here the number of 0 is 8, so 2 to the power 8 equal to 256. Now let's learn what this number of hosts is. That is IP address starting from 0, 1 up to 255. That is altogether 256. This is known as the host. Now the usable host. Usable host means the number of 0 in the host ID, that is 2 to the power 8, that is 256, minus 2, that is network address and broadcast address, equal to 254, is known as the usable host. Now usable host is from 1 to 254, subtracting network address and broadcast address. This is known as the usable host. If the subnet mask value is 128, then what does it mean? When we convert the subnet mask into binary, it will be like this. In the previous case, all this number was 0, and we convert 1 0 to 1. That is, we convert 1 host ID to network ID. 1 means network ID, 0 means host ID. That is, we convert 1 host ID to network ID in this case. This is what 128 means. When we convert this binary into decimal, it will be 128. So 128 means we convert 1 host ID to network ID. Now the CIDR means the number of 1s in the network ID. The number of 1 here is 88824 plus 1, 25. Number of hosts means host. The number of zeros here is 7. 2 to the power 7 equal to 128. The number of usable hosts, 2 to the power 7. The number of hosts 0, that is 2 to the power 7 minus 2. Minus 2 means subtracting network address and broadcast address, altogether 126. The number of subnet means the number of 1 in the network, that is 1 here is only 1. 2 to the power 1 equal to 2. Now let's learn the practical meaning of 128 in the subnet mask. It means that the IP address ending with 0 up to 127 can communicate each other. They can share file and printer, except the network address and broadcast address cannot share file and printer. And IP address ending with 1 up to 126 can communicate each other and also share file and printer among them. In the same case, 128 up to 255 can communicate each other. File and printer sharing can be performed from 129 to 254. In the previous case, 0 up to 255 can communicate each other, but we segregate into two halves. That is, first this one is into two halves, that is into two network, that is, this is known as subnet. This first subnet, this is called second subnet. That is, dividing a network into two subnet is known as subnetting. This is class C IP address. If it is class B IP address, and if the subnet mask is in the third number, then it means 0 up to 127 can share file and printer, and they can also communicate each other. In the same way, 128 to 255 can share file and printer among them, except the network address and the broadcast address. If it is in the class A, 0 up to 127 can communicate each other, except the network address and the broadcast address. In the same way, 128 up to 255 can communicate each other. They can share file and printer, except the network address and the broadcast address. If the subnet mask value is 192, then what does it mean? It means we convert 2 0 into two ones. That is, we convert two host ID into two network ID. Any CIDR notation will be /26, that is 24, 25, 26. Number of hosts means number of zeros in the host ID, that is 2 to the power 6 equal to 64. Number of usable hosts means 2 to the power 6, that is number of zeros in the host ID equals 64 minus 2 means network ID and the broadcast ID, that is equal to 62 equals 62. Number of subnet means number of ones in the network ID, that is 2. 2 to the power 2 equal to 4. That is, we divide the network into 4 subnets. If it is 2 to 4, what does it mean? We convert three host ID into 3 network ID. Any CIDR notation will be /27, that is 24, 25, 26, 27. Number of hosts means number of 0 in the host ID, that is 2 to the power 5 equal to 32. Number of usable hosts is equal to 2 to the power 5, that is 32 minus 2, that is subtracting network address and broadcast address equal to 30. Number of subnet means 2 to the power 3, that is number of ones in the network ID, that is 2 to the power 3 equal to 8. That is, we divide the network into 8 equal parts, that is 8 subnets. If it is 240, we convert 4 host ID into 4 network ID, and CIDR notation will be 28, that is 24, 25, 26, 28. Number of hosts 2 to the power 4, number of zeros in the network ID equals 16. Usable host means 2 to the power 4, that is 16 minus 2, that is subtracting network address and broadcast address equal to 14. Number of subnet, that is 2 to the power 4, number of ones 2 to the power 4 equals to 16. That is, we divide the network into 16 subnets. If it is 248, what does it mean? We convert 5 host ID into 5 network ID. CIDR notation will be /29, 24, 25, 26, 28, 29. If the subnet mask is 248, then what does it mean? That is, we convert 5 host ID into 5 network ID. CIDR notation will be 29 /29, that is 24 plus 5, 29. Number of hosts means number of zeros, that is 2 to the power 3 equal to 8. Number of usable hosts means 2 to the power 3, that is number of zeros in the host ID equal to 8 minus 2 means network ID and host ID equal to 6. Number of subnets, that is, we convert the network into 32 subnets. If it is 252, it means we convert 6 host ID into 6 network ID. CIDR notation will be /30, 24 plus 6, that is 30. Number of hosts means 2 to the power 2, that is 4, that is number of 0 here is 2, 2 to the power 2 equal to 4. Usable host 2 to the power 2, that is 4 minus 2 means network ID minus host ID equal to 2. Number of subnets, that is 2 to the power 6, number of ones, that is 2 to the power 6 equal to 64 subnets. That is, we divide the network into 64 subnets. If it is 254, it means we convert 7 host ID into 7 network ID. CIDR will be 31, that is number of ones here is 31. Number of hosts, there is only 0 only 1, that is 2 to the power 1 equal to 2. Number of usable hosts means 2 minus 2 equal to 0. There will be no usable host. Number of subnet means 2 to the power 7, that is number of 1 here is 7. 2 to the power 7 equal to 128. We divide the network into 128 subnet. If the subnet mask value is 255, then all its host ID is converted into network ID, and the CIDR notation will be /32, that is 8 3 times means 24 plus 8 equal to 32. Number of hosts equal to 1. Number of usable hosts, there is no host ID, so 2 to the power 0 will be 0, it will be 0. Number of subnet equal to 2 to the power 8, that is number of network ID. Here is 8, 2 to the power, there are 8 ones, 2 to the power 8 equal to 256. So the network is divided into 256 subnets. This is the final table we have to memorize for doing subnetting. Now let's learn how this table is prepared. We know that number in an IP address can change from 0 up to 255. So summing up equal to 256. So the first number is 256. We divide it by 2 into half equal to 128. In the same way, we divide each column by 2. So the number of hosts is prepared like this. Now the usable host, we subtract 2 ID, that is we subtract network ID and the host ID, that is 256 minus 2 equal to 254, to 128 minus 2 equal to 126, 64 minus 2 equal to 62. In the same way, we subtract 2 from each column. Now the mask prefix, how this is prepared. First mask prefix number will be 0, then came 128. Now let's learn how this 128 is derived. We know that there are 8 bits in any number of an IP address or subnet mask. Each bit has a corresponding value. First correspond a value that is 1, second bit 2, third bit 4, fourth bit will be 8. So every bit has a corresponding value, that is this is the corresponding value. So we write this 128. Next is 192. We sum up this 128 plus 64 is 192. 224 up to 128 plus 64 plus 32. In the same way, 240 we sum up this 4 numbers. 248 we sum up to 8. 252 we sum up to 4. 254 we sum up to 2. 255 we sum up to 128 to 1. So the binary of 0 will be like this. All the corresponding binary will be like this. That is here 0 only, all are 0. Then 1 time, 1 2. So corresponding which change, increase the number of ones. This is the binary. Now the number of subnets. Subnet here means we have to count number of 1. Here it is 1. 2 to the power 1 equal to 2. That is we divide into 2 networks. Number of 1 here is 2. 2 to the power 4 equal to 4. 2 to the power 3 equal to, we divide the network into 8. So we increase 1, 2 up double. 2 to the power 4, 8, then 16, 32, doubling, multiply by 2, 64, 128 and 256. In this way we prepare this table. Now let's learn how to do subnetting questions. In this question, we have to find out the network address, broadcast address, subnet masks, number of hosts, number of usable hosts, and the IP address is given by a slicer notation /26. So first write the IP address like this: 45.73.3.198, and /26 means number of ones will be 26. So I have written number of 1 here 26, 8, 24 plus 2, that is 26. The remaining 0. Now let's find out the subnet masks. 1 8 time means 255 in decimal. 1 8 time in decimal is 255. In the same way, 1 8 time in binary to decimal is 255. Now number of 1 here is only 2. Now let's find out how to find out the subnet masks value in decimal by using this binary number having only 2 ones. Each bit has a corresponding value, that is it. First 0 means 0 has a value 1, second bit has a value 2, third 4, and the fourth 8, fifth 16. In this way, the value each bit has this corresponding value. It will be increased by double 1, so increased by double 2, 2 4. It is increasing by 8. So we have to find out the subnet masks by using this binary number. So there are 2 ones, so we will sum up this 2 number, that is 128 plus 64, that is 192. If there are 3 ones, then we have sum up these 3 numbers. If there are 4 ones, then we have sum up this 4 number. In this way we find out the subnet masks value. Now let's find out the network address. We have to look only the 255. If 255, then simply copy the IP address. 255, simply copy the IP address. If the subnet mask value is 255, then simply copy the IP address. If it is not, then we have to check a table. This is the table, if you can memorize it, that is very useful in calculating subnetting questions. So we have to check the subnetting mask value, that is 192. In this table it is here, that is 192. Number of hosts is 64. So first network and first subnet mask ID will be 0. After this 64 plus 64 will be 128 plus 64 will be 192. And check the last number of the IP address, that is 198. It is fall in this subnet. Since 192 is greater than this, we will not select this one. We will select this smaller subnet number, that is 128. So we will select this value, and its network address will be this one, that is 128. And now let's find out the broadcast address. Simply it is same. If subnet mask value is 255, simply copy the IP address. If 255, simply copy the IP address. 255, simply copy the IP address. If it is not, then 192. Check the table. 192, number of host 64. First subnet will be 0. Next will be 64 plus 64 will be 128 plus 64 will be 192. Check the last IP address value, that is 198. It fall in this network, in this subnet. If it is broadcast, then select the higher subnet, that is 182 minus 1, that is 191. So we will write like this. We will select the higher network and minus 1, and we will write like this. Now let's find out the number of hosts. Number of hosts means this 0 means host, 1 means network. So we have to count number of 0 here, that is 6. 2 to the power 6 equal to 64. So number of hosts equal to 2 to the power 6 equals 64. Number of usable hosts means we have to count number of zeros, that is 6. 2 to the power 6, that is 64, minus 2 means network address, subtracting network address and subtracting network address and broadcast address equal to 62. Number of subnet means number of network, that is number of network ID. There are two ones, so 2 to the power 2 equal to 4. Subnet means this is a network, so we have to count number of 1, that is 2 1. So 2 to the power 2 equal to 4. In this question, we have to find out the network address, broadcast address, number of hosts, number of user hosts, and the IP address and subnet mask is given. So we will simply write the IP address like this and the subnet mask. Now let's find out the network address. If the subnet mask value is 255, simply write the IP address. In the same way, 255, simply write the IP address. Subnet mask value is 255, simply write the IP address. If it is not, then check the table with the mask prefix 224, that is 224. So the number of hosts will be 32. So the first subnet will start from 0. Next will be 32 plus 32 means 64 plus 32 means 96. In the same way, we will add 32 in each subnet and we will get the next subnets. Now let's check the last value of the IP address, that is 5. So it falls in this first 0 in this network, that is 0. Since it is 5, it will fall in this network. So we will write this 0 in the network address. Now let's find out the broadcast address. If 255, simply copy the IP address. 255, simply copy the IP address. 255, simply copy the IP address, that is 2. If it is not, now check the table, that is 224 falls in this column and its number of hosts is 32. So first subnet will be 0, next will be 32 plus 32. In the same way, we will add 32 to get the next subnet. Now check the IP address, last value, that is 5, so it falls in this subnets. Where in case of broadcast address, we have to select the next subnet, that is 32 minus 1, that is 31. So we will write here 31. So this is the broadcast address. Now we have to convert this subnet marks into binary. 255 means 1 8 time, 255 means 1 8 time, 255 means 1 8 times. So if we convert 224 into 224 decimal into binary, it will be like this. If you can calculate like this, it is better. If you don't want to calculate, then memorize this table. So 224 here the binary will be this number, so we will write here this number. So now let's calculate the number of hosts. Number of hosts means 0. One ID means network ID means 1, so we have to count number of 0. That is here the number of 0 here is 5. So 2 to the power 4 2 to the power 5 equal to 32. Number of zeros, that is 5. 2 to the power 5 equal to 32. Number of usable hosts means 2 to the power 5, that is number of zeros, that is 32 minus network address minus broadcast address, that is equal to 30. Number of subnet means number of ones, that is here the number of 1 here is 3. 2 to the power 3 equal to 8. We have to check only in the subnet mask number value which is not 255. So we have to count only in this subnet mask value that is not 255. So this 224 is not, so we will count only in this value. In this question also we have to find out the network address and broadcast address, and the network and the IP address is given and the subnet mask is given. So we will simply write the IP address here, that is 10.0.5.125, and subnet mask is written here. So we have to find out the network address. If 255, then simply copy the IP address. If the subnet mask value is 255, simply copy the IP address, that is 0. If it is not, then we have to check the table. So it is 192. The number of hosts is 64. First subnet will be 0. Next will be 64 plus 64 will be 128 plus 64 will be 192. Number of subnet will be 4. Now let's check the since the value is since the subnet mask value that is not 255 is in the third number, so we will check the third number, that is 5. So it falls in this network. So we will write 0. So we will write here 0. Then remaining will be 0. We will write 0. If it is network address, the remaining will be, we have to write all zeros. Now let's find out the broadcast address. If 255, then simply copy the IP address. If 255, then simply copy the IP address. If not 192, then check the table. Then number of hosts is 64. First name will be 0, next 64, then 128, then 192. So we are adding 64 to get the next subnet. Now this is in the subnetting is done in the third number. So we will check the third number, that is 5. So it falls in this network. We have to check that if it is broadcast address, we have to select the next subnet, that is 64 minus 1, that is 63, and we have to write in the third number. Since subnetting is done in the third number, so we have to write this. We have to write here 63 in this number, that is minus 64 minus 1 is equal to 63. We have to write in the third number, and rest will be 255. If broadcast address, we have to write all rest to 255. Network address, we have to write remaining zeros. In this question, we have to find out network address, broadcast address, and the IP address and subnet mask given. So simply write the IP address like this and subnet mask like this, and subnetting is done here in the second number. So now let's find out the network address. If 255 subnet mask value is 255, simply copy the IP address. If it is not, so we will check the value, that is 192. It falls in this column. So number of hosts is 64. First subnet will be 0. Next subnet will be 64 plus 64 plus 64 will be 128. Next will be 192. And check the, since subnetting is done in the second number, so we will check the second number in the IP address, that is 0. It falls in this network. So we will write here 0. Then the rest of the number will be 0. If network address, we will write the rest will be 0. In the same way, we will find the broadcast address 255. We will write IP address of the IP address, that is 10. If it is not, we will check table. So number of hosts will be 64. First will be 0. Next subnet will be 64. Next will be 128. That's adding 64. And subnetting is done in the second number. So we will check the second number, that is 0. It falls in this network. If it is broadcast address, we will select the higher network, that is higher subnet, that is 64 minus 1, that is 63. We will write here 63. The rest will be 255. In this way, we calculate subnetting questions. In this question, I am going to add some extra, that is to find out the number of hosts, number of usable hosts, and number of subnets. In order to calculate this, this one we have to first convert this subnet marks into binary. This when we convert this decimal 255 into binary, it will be 18 times. 1 and 2 will be these numbers. 0 will be 08 times. 0 will be 08 times. We have to check the value of the subnet in order or the number in which subnetting is done. The subnetting is done in this second value, that is here, that is 192. We have to count the number of zeros in the second value, third value, and the fourth value. So here it is 8 plus 6. 8, 16 plus 6 equal to 22. 2 to the power 22 equal to this number. Number of usable hosts means 2 to the power 22. That is 8 16 plus 6 22 equal to this, minus 2 means subtracting network address and broadcast address will be number will this one. Number of subnet means number of subnets. We have to calculate only the number of ones in which the subnetting is done. Since subnetting is done in the second value, we have to count the number of 1. So number of 1 here is 2. 2 to the power 2 equal to 4. In order to check whether my subnetting done is correct or not, then you can check online. Simply select this IP subnet calculator and select the IP subnet calculator. Then select the class of the IP. So I will select class A for the example. So I will select the subnet mask, that is 255.182. That is 255.182. That is /10. Then in this you have to type the IP address of the starting, the IP address in the question. Then click on calculate. Then it will calculate all the answer. So number of hosts, number of usable hosts, subnet marks, and the network address, broadcast address, IP range. In this way we can check whether my subnetting done is correct or wrong.